welcome to my kitchen and welcome to another episode of Cook for Love.
Hello.
Today Rosie and I are going to make roll-out sugar cookies. And on the website there are two recipes for sugar cookies, and one is just your basic drop cookie, which is your roll and just put it on the pan and bake it. And this is the one that you roll out that you have for the holidays.
Okay.
And I have found that there's some really nice recipes out there for low-protein sugar cookies, but one of the problems I find is they're not stable enough. Like if you bring them into a classroom, they break. If the kids try to decorate them, they break. So really my goal here was to come up with a delicious cookie that was also stable enough to travel and stable enough for the kids to have fun with without worrying about breaking off Santa Claus's head. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with, again, with most cookie recipes, the basic formula is to cream your sugar and your butter and then add your dry ingredients. So I'm going to start with taking a stick of butter, and again, we talk about it in other clips, but just in case you haven't seen them, the temperature of the butter is one of the most important things in terms of baking. If butter is, it's supposed to be at room temperature, which means you've taken it from the fridge for about a half hour before you need it. If you forget to take your butter out, please don't microwave it, because when you microwave it, the heat just is that goes through it, it's very uneven, and you're going to have spots that are melted and you're going to have spots that are too hard, and it's not going to be able to incorporate the sugar properly. So the butter should be soft enough that you can bend it like that, and then you can put your finger in it and it makes an indentation. So in goes a stick of butter.
Brenda, while you're doing that, will I go ahead and do the dry ingredients?
That would be great, thank you.
Okay, sure. This is the base of the dry ingredients is wheat starch. So to the wheat starch, I'm going to add xanthan gum, salt, baking powder. It's not coming out, and the vanilla instant pudding.
And one of the reasons why we use instant pudding is that it actually really helps with binding. Again, we're trying to use as few eggs, as little amount of the higher protein foods as possible, and that really just helps to give it some more structure.
Okay.
So into the stick of butter, I'm adding 4 tablespoons of shortening. I'm not a big fan of shortening, but I find in some recipes it's just needed. In this particular recipe, it just makes a more crisp cookie, and I think for a sugar cookie it just is essential. Okay. So I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of the shortening to the butter, and my secret ingredient is 2 tablespoons of cream cheese.
Now, cream cheese wouldn't, again, usually be used in the low-protein diet.
No, it wouldn't, and I know there are people that are listening right now that are saying, you use what? Yeah, I use cream cheese. Just Philadelphia cream cheese, only 2 tablespoons of it. And really, when you're thinking about the amount of cookies that this makes, and it makes about 60 cookies, it's a small amount of feed, but a tremendous amount of flavor. It really is worth it to incorporate into this particular recipe. So I'm going to add in here 2 tablespoons, and I'm going to mix this up. And into that, I'm just dumping the sugar. Now, what we're going to do here is we're just going to add half of a large egg. And we're going to mix it up so that it's yolk and all, which is going to be 25 grams. And because we're only using half of the egg, we need to create the moisture from somewhere else. So to that, we're adding 2 tablespoons of water that Rosie already pre-measured. Okay.
And mix again?
Mix it again. So really the liquid ends up being about 60 grams, which is what would be in a whole egg.
There you go.
Okay. I'm going to turn the mixer back on. I'm going to dump this in. Okay, now I'm just going to add the 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Oops. And what we're going to do from here is the dry ingredients are just going to get dumped in there. And what I'm going to do while you're getting ready to do that is I'm just going to dampen a clean kitchen towel so that it prevents that big dust cloud from coming out of you.
Okay. Said dust cloud.
There you go. And what I'm going to do is turn this down, put this down, and then just put the damp towel over it so a lot of the dust doesn't come up. Okay. And if you look here, it looks very, very, very dry. Just give it a couple of seconds of mixing and it will become more like a cookie dough consistency. What we're going to do is take the cookie dough and we're going to divide it into 2 Ziploc bags. So, and this is just going to be approximately half. Nothing needs to be measured or exact. This part and put it in there.
Sure.
And what I do is I press it down a little bit, and I don't seal the Ziploc bag. And what I'm going to do is just roll it out to probably, it's going to be about, probably about ½ inch thick. And this just makes life easier when you take it out of the fridge to roll it more. Okay, so we've rolled it out this one, and then we're going to repeat it with the half that Rosie has. And then this is going to go into the fridge for about a ½ hour, and then we're going to roll it out even more. It's probably to about 1/8 of an inch, and then we're going to cut out our shapes and we're going to pop them in the oven. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so what we've done is we've had our cookie dough in the fridge for about a ½ hour, and now it's ready to take out and roll even thinner. Now you want this to be a fairly thin dough, about 1/8 of an inch, because that's what's going to get the crispy cookie. And the thing that is really nice about this recipe is you can just make this a month ahead of time and put it in your freezer and be set for the holidays and be set for parties that are coming up, and know that you're one step ahead of the game. The other thing that you can do is, even after you've rolled it out, cut them into your shapes and put them on a cookie tray and put it in the freezer. And once they've frozen, transfer them into a Ziploc bag. But only do a single layer and then cardboard in between. And then you're talking about just literally taking your cutout cookie, putting it in the oven 2 days before Christmas or 3 days before Christmas, and you're set. There's no mess, there's no stress for that anyway. So we are just going to try to get this out without making too much of a mess. It doesn't seem to be cooperating, but that's okay. Oops. And it's very warm in our kitchen right now. At any point, you can always pop it in the fridge. If the dough is starting to feel a little too soft, or you're having problems transferring it, you can always just put it back in the fridge and it crisps it right up. And then I'm going to roll it, and it's all going to form together anyway. Hopefully. And I'm going to, instead of making a big mess, I like to roll it out between 2 pieces of parchment paper. It just, you add less wheat starch, it doesn't stick, and it's easier to clean up, most important. So now I'm just going to start rolling. And rolling the dough takes a good few minutes to get it to the thinness that you want. I find that no matter how much I focus on starting in the center and rolling out to the edges, my center is always thicker. So a lot of times when I'm finished, what I'll do is cut around the outsides where it's the right thinness, and then I'll start from the center again and roll it out some more if I need to. So in terms of fee, it's going to depend on how many cookies you make out of it. I find that the larger cookies are usually, and we're talking about the 4-inch ones, they're usually about 12 milligrams. But the smaller ones, the tiny ones are as low as 3, just depending on the size that you use.
Now, does Santa get low-protein cookies?
Santa always gets low-protein cookies and rice milk in our house.
Okay.
And he's never complained.
I thought that was easy.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying your tea. And all the holes have been repaired. What I'm going to do, though, is the dough is getting a little too soft. I'm going to pop it back in the fridge for about 10 minutes before we even attempt to cut them out. Okay, so that 10 minutes in the fridge did a world of good. So now I'm going to pull off the top. And what we're going to do, I'll give you some of that too, is just cut out a couple of different shapes, and we're going to pop them in the oven. It only takes about 10 to 12 minutes to cook, and the cookie sheet should really be lined with parchment paper. I find no matter how well you grease it, a piece of the cookie gets stuck, and then it does break. So. Again, like I said before, the feed depends on the size of the cookie, and I like the big ones for the kids to decorate. So I'm going to take a big snowman, and I'm going to put him down right there. And then what I'm going to try to do is the next one I do, I'm going to try to get as close as I can to that snowman. Now this is assuming that it's an adult doing it. We all know that if our kids are joining us, they're plopping it down wherever, and we just need to live with it.
You're going to get 4 cookies out of that.
And then you're going to have to re-roll it again. But they're not here right now, so I can do it the way I want. So I have that snowman there, and then if I put another snowman right next to him upside down, it leaves me with very little cookie dough in between, which means I don't need to roll it so much. So Rosie, if you want to take a couple of these, and you can have some fun.
Okay. Why don't I try doing the little ones around the edge?
Okay.
But I have to say, I do prefer the larger ones because you can say you had one cookie as opposed to 3 of the little
There you
ones.
go. Okay, so we've cut out our cookies, and now we just need to transfer them over to our cookie sheet that's been lined with the parchment paper. And if at any point, like right now our kitchen is pretty hot, we actually had to take the cookie dough and put it back in the fridge just to make it a little bit more manageable. And if that happens, at any point in any of this, you can always just put it back in the fridge for 10 minutes and then proceed. So we've got our cookies, and now I'm just going to use a spatula to lift them out, and I'm going to pull away the excess dough that we're going to have to re-roll. And flip it over, and then flip it back. And these are not going to spread too much, just because they're not a cookie that spreads. So you can put them fairly close together, but I would give them, to be safe, I'd give them an inch or 2 apart.
Can different size cookies go into the oven at the same time?
They can, as long as they're the same thickness. Like that's
Okay.
the key, is really the thickness piece, because if they're the same degree of thickness, they should cook in about the same time.
Okay.
All right, so we've rolled out our cookie dough, we've made our shapes. I have them on a parchment-lined pan, and we're going to pop them in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. They're still going to be a little bit pale in color, but they're going to be nice and crisp. And then what we're going to do is our scraps of dough. We're going to re-roll those, and we're going to make it our next tray. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes. I think those cookies are just about ready, and we're going to take them out of the oven, and then you let them sit on a wire rack on the baking sheet for, I'd say, about at least 5 minutes, and let them cool. They're going to get more crisp as they're sitting there on that pan, and they're also going to become more stable, so we can transfer them without worrying about them breaking.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, they look good.
They do.
I'm going to put that right there, and I'm going to turn off that timer.
Do you think I should try one to, do a taste test?
I think maybe you should let them cool first, but then absolutely. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes, so these have cooled off and the pan is not too hot. So now I'm just going to take them and transfer them over onto the wire rack for them to cool completely. You want them to cool for at least a half hour before you decorate them. And our next series, we are actually having our decorator come in, and she's going to show us how to make them really, really beautiful for the holidays. So, there we go.
Can you make a double batch of these, Brenda? Because I'm pretty sure that the kids are going to eat a lot of them.
You absolutely can. The only thing I'd have to say about making a double batch is make sure you're spacing out the time that you're rolling them. Like you want to divide it then into 4 bags, and you'll find that by the time you take the scraps and keep rolling and re-rolling, you're going to get tired. So do the batch one day, then do maybe gingerbread cookies another day, and you can kind of do it that way. So I'm going to take this pan and put it to the side and have a cookie.
Oh, yum.
This is the part we like the most. Thank you very much for joining us, and remember, even if you don't love to cook, sometimes you do need to cook for love. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.